Hey guys, where are we going?
We're going to California!
That's right, we're going to LA. We're going to Anime Expo.
Wait, we're going to LA?
Yeah.
We're just going to California.
We're going to LA.
Oh.
That's where we're landing. LAX.
You're gonna get jumped.
Hopefully not. In a couple, we'll see what happens in a couple hours. So we're about 5 hours away right now.
Actually, 4 hours and 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's 10 a.m. Georgia time right now. So we'll probably arrive at like 11 a.m. or 12.
So we're going through 3 time zones, I believe.
And a big desert.
So once we hit so if it's 5 hours, so we get there about 3. So yeah, we'll be getting there about noon.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Which is when registration begins for AX, so I think we'll be okay.
We'll probably get, depending on how long it takes us to get out, probably 1 to 2 by the time we get to the hotel and deal with Uber and all that.
Yeah.
So probably maybe 3 o'clock at latest, hopefully, we'll be able to get in line.
I bet you there's a lot of people who's going to be already in line for the badges. Like, we're probably in line right now, actually.
Well, a few people like my friend James flew out last night, so they're already out there right now. So I'm sure he's already.
They already
in line.
got the tents and everything ready?
Yeah, they said that supposedly like by 5 is when they're expecting the big crowd of people to start showing up, I guess.
That's when people get off work.
Yeah, people getting off work and everything.
This occasion.
Did you not make the pun?
Yes, I did. I went an entire plane ride without making one single pun.
We were in California. We're gonna see the land.
We're gonna get into the airport, and then it's gonna be like, okay, we're in the airport. Pun.
Don't give me any ideas.
Alright, so we landed in LA. It is nice as hell out. It's like 68 degrees. Feels fantastic out here. There's a yellow polka dotted bus. So we're going to try to get a ride to the hotel and get checked in. This is technically day -1 of Anime Expo. Tomorrow is technically day 0. The con runs Saturday to Tuesday, which is very unusual, but it works out for Anime Expo being on the 4th of July week.
And you're actually in.
Yes.
CJ.
And zooms in intently on Jean d'Arc body pillow. There we go. Oh yes. So this has got to be the most like aesthetically cool looking hotel we've ever stayed in for a con.
The bathroom is fantastic.
Yeah, I still need to go check that out. This is the Hotel Indigo, and it's phenomenal.
And it's actually still being built. They're still not finished building everything.
Sorry.
You know you're in for a treat when the first music you hear is Team Revolution. So after that, we went uptown to Home Depot just to get some emergency cosplay supplies and things like that. And one thing I will say about LA is it's kind of disgusting. I mean, the actual area that the convention takes place at is really beautiful. There's a lot of very beautiful buildings, and I'm sure you'll see that as the weekend goes on. But that area we had to walk through to get to that Home Depot was absolutely atrocious. There's a street that is just lined with tents that homeless people are living in, and it's the nastiest, filthiest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it's kind of embarrassing, frankly. Like as people say what they want about Atlanta, but there is not a place in Atlanta anywhere that looks as bad as what I saw today. So then we went uptown to Little Tokyo, and we ate at this ramen place, and it was fantastic. It was called My Ramen Bar, I think is what it was called. Very, very good. And then we went and looked at these shops, and we found the coolest, most awesome anime shop ever called Anime Jungle, and they had a lot of really cool stuff. They had three separate storefronts, one for trading card games, one for Gundams and other model kits, another one for other anime figures. So I got a couple of things from them already. From the, they didn't have any Zoids model kits except for a Gojulus the Ogre Kotobukiya, which was over $500, so I definitely did not buy that, even though I really would have loved to. But I did get a Front Mission mecha figure, which I know you can't see that very well, but that was a really nice find. I was very happy to pick that up. And then it's all shrink wrapped and everything. And then from the anime store portion, I managed to find a Gungrave art book that is from the anime. So that was a great find as well. It wasn't too expensive. I was very happy about that. They also had a couple of Danganronpa statues. They had one of Chiaki from 2 and one of Kyoko from 1. And I can't decide which one I want. They're both $120. But me and the group agreed that we'd go back up there if some of the things we saw are not at the con. Although I believe Anime Jungle does have a booth at the con. So we'll see what happens. So again, tomorrow is day 0. Nothing happening until the evening tomorrow. So that may give us some more downtime to kind of explore the city and do some fun things like that. Maybe eat some good food. But I'm looking forward to that as well. And I'm assuming as soon as Saturday starts, we'll get to explore the dealer's room and start cosplaying and all that other good stuff. All right, so we're wrapping up day 0 now, and so this day was pretty laid back as well, just like day -1, and we didn't really do much of the con because nothing really opened until almost 6 o'clock, and that was for people that had the pre-registered day 0 like premiere badge or whatever. So I had to go back in registration line and get that as well, which was kind of aggravating. And so what we did was we went to Chinatown today and played around a little bit, explored, got some really good food, got some amazing pho, and then we went back to Little Tokyo for a little bit, got some snacks, and then finally came back to the con in time to get ready for the premiere. And I had Brad and Taylor with me as All Might and Endeavor from My Hero Academia. And that's when I knew that Momo-kun cosplay was going to be here, but I did not expect to hear somebody out of the corner. God, you guys look so cool. Can I get a picture of you? And it's saying that to Brad and Taylor and looking, and it was her. And I was just like, and I immediately had to get that selfie with her. So that was really cool. We'll see what cosplays she brings this weekend. And then after that, we had to wait through that ridiculous line and got inside. Finally got inside the con itself. And one thing about this con though is this con is gonna nickel and dime you to death. Like this is by far and a mile the most expensive con that I've ever done, but it is nickel and diming me to death with all these stupid little things you have to pay for, all this premium membership bullshit, and little like super ultra awesome premium executive super awesome badge bullshit and all the incentives that go along with that. And the fact that it's a Saturday to Tuesday con I think also really hurts it in that regard, but
it worked out fine for us. And then paying for food that's way overpriced in Little Tokyo and here as well, and places that only deal in cash, mandatory gratuities, just a lot of just crap. And so this is becoming a very, very, very expensive con. It is not forgiving to newcomers whatsoever. I got sunburned pretty bad in Chinatown. I mean, that awful walk to Home Depot yesterday through Tent Town there, where all the homeless people were, was pretty brutal. I think that's where I got the majority of my sunburn, but being out in it again today was not nice either. So I'm glad to finally be done with that. I don't think it's going to impact my look too bad, but I may try to apply some makeup for tomorrow when I finally cosplay. So tomorrow is going to be a very busy day. I've actually got some things on the schedule, including first thing at 11:30. Oh yeah, Dwayne and Tiffany promptly came back, which I could tell where you guys have been.
Yeah.
Hi.
So I'm actually about to call it a night, you guys. So I'm glad you guys came in now and not when I was asleep. But yeah, so I have the production IG panel at 11:30, and then I don't think I have anything until 3, which is the fake Grand Order thing at the Aniplex booth. So I'm going to try to probably just be out of cosplay, rush over to the con and go to the production IG panel and finally get to look in the dealer's room, waste the rest of my cash and bring all that bring all that crap back here, and then change into Slutty Archer for the Aniplex thing and stay in him the rest of the day and get Saber's autograph. I'm very excited about that. And that'll be... I've got some other things on the schedule. I have to check my Anime Expo app and check exactly what those things are.
Yeah, he's struggling just to get across the street.
I can see why, yeah. Day one is finally beginning. So I finally, after a while of waiting in line, managed to get in the dealer's room, and it is incredible. There are booths from the actual parent companies of a lot of these franchises and brands. Behind me is actually the gameplay demo for Ni no Kuni 2 that's playable here on the show floor. It looks like people are going through that right now. I probably won't have the time to play it, but I definitely wanted to show it off. So I think I finally hit the jackpot with those Zoids. They're probably going to pick up the Great Saber, definitely, but there's so much other stuff in here that I want, and I only have so much money to spend. This con has already been so expensive and nickel-diming me to death, so I really got to be strategic about this and decide what I'm going to get. So I'm going to walk around the entire dealer's room kind of quickly and just kind of take pictures of things that I know that I want, just kind of assess how much money I would be spending or how much, what things I really want more than others. But I can't take too long to do it because I've got to get back to my room and change into Archer for the Grand Order panel at 3 o'clock. And knowing how long it takes to get to the hotel and get back and get changed and everything, I need a lot of time for that, so we'll see how that goes. So I had my fun in cosplay for day one. I got to meet a couple of the other members of the Anime Expo Type Moon group and some new people that didn't even know about the group. A few of them I haven't talked to yet out of cosplay. I've been seeing them around, but I've been kind of waiting to introduce myself when I'm in cosplay. So what I didn't realize is that Anime Expo was absolutely ridiculous when it comes to the autograph signings, and that you had to get a voucher from the table in order to, you had to get a voucher from the table, which required waiting in line for an obscene amount of time, and then wait to another time of day in order to actually get the autograph signing done. So I decided that because I missed out on that, I'm not going to be able to get Ayaka Kawasumi's autograph for Saber, which sucks. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to get that at a different con. Kind of bent out of shape about that, but other than that, I'm happy with what I got in the dealer's room. I got some awesome stuff. I had to be very strategic about what I bought in the dealer's room because there was so much stuff that I wanted. I couldn't decide on this one thing until I saw obviously the figure of Scavenge, and I was like, gotta buy that. And then seeing the Zoids as well, which they had obviously a better selection of Zoids than we saw up in Little Tokyo, including the Gojulus, the Ogre, which was a much better price. So because I was trying to figure out if I could still get Ayaka Kawasumi's autograph even after the fact, I missed out on the Grand Order launch panel, which is a shame. But I'm not going to miss out on anything else Type Moon related for the rest of the con. I'm going to go to both photo shoots, make sure that I am vocal about talking to and communicating with the other Type Moon cosplayers, most of which have been very friendly, some of which not so much. But I mean, what do you expect when you're dealing with a stranger? I mean, maybe it's just a difference in culture with the cosplayers out here than it is on the East Coast, but we'll see what happens. So right now I'm just kind of killing time, getting some shots of some good cosplays I'm seeing, and getting ready for the Danganronpa 3 preview panel, which is 8 o'clock. So I will not be missing that. It'll be the first panel today that I've not missed. So we're checking that out. Now, honestly, I have to say, I feel like Anime Expo, I've had a great time so far, but I will not be coming back. It's at least not for many years, unless I have like $3,000 or so to spend on it. I will not be coming back. This con is way too expensive, and the arbitrary stipulations they put on where you can go and where you can't go and when you can go there is very organized. We give it credit, but it is punishing to somebody who doesn't go every single year. And for me to travel this far, I can't go every single year. It would be like if I had to travel for Dragon Con. Dragon Con is very much the same way. But people make this argument all the time about Dragon Con should move to a convention center, not be in hotels. This is my argument against that. If Dragon Con ended up like this, it would be terrible. But overall, I am having a good time, but it's definitely like I said, it's nickel diming me to death, and it's burning me out just waiting in line and trying to get from place to place. But the high notes are making it all worth it. The experiences and people that I'm meeting and talking to, and the stuff that I'm buying, you know, it's all going to make it worth it in the long run. So I don't want to seem too overtly negative, because it's a train of thought I see a lot of cosplayers and con people get on all too often, is the whole like, I'm never going to this con again because this con did this one thing wrong I don't appreciate. Blah, blah, blah. And I never really buy into that mindset. So we'll see what happens. So I just got out of the Danganronpa 3 localization panel. It was 4 people from Nippon Ichi Software who were talking about the localization of the game and how they did the dub, essentially. That's all it was about. It started off kind of boring, like they weren't super great at facilitating and really giving that information. But they did have a few interesting things to talk about. They talked about how they had to submit a lot of data to the companies that give them the rating, so like the ESRB, PEGI, all those other companies. And so they had to submit examples of characters, you know, cussing or doing things inappropriate. And there's a scene where in Japanese, it's Miyu, who is the ultimate mechanic. She, or engineer, whatever she is, she says a phrase in Japanese because somebody like actually, you know, talked back to her and she was offended. So she swears in Japanese and says something to kind of like go back into her shell. In the English version, they played the clip. She says, "Well, fuck you too," and that was what they had to submit. And they were like, "All right, you want that M rating, don't you?" It was pretty funny. Other than that, they talked about Ganta and how Ganta is basically almost like Tarzan with the way that he talks, where he has a very primitive speech pattern because of his backstory. And they wanted to find a way to, first of all, they didn't say what his backstory was because spoilers, but they wanted to find a way to convey that without making it sound offensive or that he was dim-witted. So that must have been challenging, but they said they nailed it for the most part. So other than a couple of people asked some questions before they ended and showed the trailer, but one guy asked a question. He basically was calling them out, saying, "Oh, I never liked the dub as much as the Japanese version for the previous games, because I played in both English and Japanese. The characters just sounded kind of bland. So did you guys kind of fix that in this game?" And I was like, "Wow, what an asshole! Like, why would you ask them a question like that?" Calling them out, essentially saying the dub is bad when these are the people that created the dub. But they answered it pretty well, and they basically said that, they answered it exactly the way what I would have, which is that certain levels of enthusiasm and emphasis do not naturally make sense in English conversation, and that's part of localization. If it doesn't work in English, make it work in English. So if you have somebody like Ibuki, for instance, who's really over the top and enthusiastic in the Japanese delivery, she's not going to sound exactly the same in English, and you can't knock the dub for that because that's what a localization is. If you don't like it, play the Japanese version. Anyway, that's about it for that panel. I got a little Momokono thing. And there's another one at 9:30 tomorrow night that is going to have the voice actors actually on the panel, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I think they had added all their friend codes together or whatever and started doing roles that way.
Get out of my picture.
Hey, excuse me.
You're in there somewhere.
Oh, don't touch my face.
We're waiting in line again. This is day 3 technically now. So as expected, I didn't really get a chance to do much of anything for the video yesterday because I was in cosplay. But yesterday, obviously, I think I may have talked a little bit about the first Type-In photo shoot at the Aniplex booth. That was okay. they did a good job of hyping it up and getting the actual industry people involved with it, which is really cool. But I think I may have talked about in a previous clip my criticisms about trying to raise awareness for this photo shoot, because it seems like everybody either didn't know about it or they weren't sure about it. Like when I asked them, they were like, maybe, or when is it? Like the level of enthusiasm and excitement was really down. I was very critical of that. But that being said, despite my earlier criticisms, the photo shoot we actually had last night was fantastic. It was so good, and I could not be more happy with how it turned out. And I met a lot of great people, a lot of great cosplayers, got their information, and finally kind of realized the reason why like some of the interactions I had with some of the cosplayers were the way they were. And it's just because some of it is just the nature of this con. Like this con, you have to plan everything out like 2 or 3 hours in advance, which I'm used to from Dragon Con. But it's like, if you have something planned out and I ask you, do you want to go to a photo shoot, you can't just spontaneously say, oh yeah, I'll totally be there, because you cannot just spontaneously decide something like that. You have to have it all planned out in advance. But yeah, I'll be sure to put the pictures of the photo shoot in here so you guys can see it. And I'll probably be running around his grave later today. I missed the A1 Pictures panel as well because, again, I got there about an hour or 45 minutes or so before the panel, and the line was already maxed out. They wouldn't let any more people in, which is really frustrating. So I'm pretty much done trying to do panels at this con. Like I said, it's either one or the other. If you're here as a regular weeb, if you're here as a consumer, you're here to buy stuff and go to panels and meet industry people, it's good. And if you're here to cosplay, it's good, but you can't do both. You got to pick one or the other, because there is just not enough time to do both. And it is punishing to people who are not familiar with the layout of the facility and the way that the cons are, the way that the panels are conducted and everything like that. So anyway, I'm going to be running around his grave for the rest of the day, and that'll pretty much be that'll be it for Anime for the rest of the weekend.
She still wins, in my opinion.
All right, jump and pump.
step and you're dead. Why just a bit to second I go with the sky, but now lightning's like your last result. It's not an accident that no one hears you.
All right, so we're on our flight back. We're finally going home to Atlanta. So, final thoughts on the Anime Expo.
Me first, or you?
Yeah, you can go ahead first.
So, I don't know, it was interesting. It was a lot of people. If you haven't already seen Kotaku's message about it, the line on day one was quite long.
Yeah.
It was apparently reached almost 2 miles at one point. We walked past it, and it was exactly about probably as long as they said it was. Luckily, we got there on day -1, so it was easy for us.
Yeah, if you were a day one only, I feel bad for you.
Yeah. These people would have bought $60 to go in there for day one, and they would have been in there for 5 hours apparently for some of those guys. But it was interesting to see it because it was almost an industry-style convention, but it had a good bit of cosplaying going on there. I feel for the numbers, it probably could have had more, but there were definitely a lot of costumes, a lot of good ones. But it definitely had a lot of people there just for your special releases. Not so much the Anime Expo booth stuff itself, but you'll have a bunch of the Funimation and Bandai will have specific releases for just 1 or 2 days. And I have my own story about getting screwed out of that.
Yeah.
They also had Blue Fin and Antiplex.
Yeah, all those other ones.
Good Smile Company and all that.
But it was a lot of fun. The nighttime stuff was a little lacking, I felt, but that could just come from us not having not been there before, so we may not know all the sites to go to for late night stuff.
Yeah, we weren't as savvy with the area or with the community, so there's probably a lot of parties and stuff going on that we didn't know about. But we're used to DragonCon, which takes place at hotels, so all the parties are happening in the same space the convention's happening. Whereas it seems like any parties that be happening at night moved away from the convention. We had a good time last night talking to those Yu-Gi-Oh cosplayers.
Yeah, we ended up, we were just trying to figure out what to do by that point, and just happened to like see the tail end of the World Cosplay Federation panel, which was interesting to say the least.
The cosplay wrestling, apparently, which we were just sitting there just resting, we were burned out, and all of a sudden, like, people just start coming out of this big panel room, the same panel room that it was live programming 3, I think, and just floods the hallway with all these people that are like chanting at these wrestlers, and you see like Mario coming out with a fucking championship belt in his hand, and then you see
They would literally chant about anything.
yeah, then you see JoJo coming out with the cardboard steamroller.
The pixelated steamroller.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I don't know that Mario one was really bad. It was like Mamma Mia Beatball, Mamma Mia Beatball.
Yeah, something like that.
It ended up causing a whole bunch of crap to happen because apparently, from what we heard, was they apparently got so rough in their panel that they broke something in the room, had it kicked out, so went outside into the hallway to try to do it again, and had like 6 or 7 staff members called on them trying to break them up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I have no idea.
then
why
they went
thought
outside
that.
apparently, and by the time that was over, we met up with a group of Yu-Gi-Oh cosplayers that were a lot of fun to hang out with for half an hour, maybe an hour or so.
Yeah.
And then they ran off, and then we had to head back to get prepped for today.
Yeah, then today we got up early, got checked out of our room, went back into Little Tokyo, and had the conveyor belt sushi after, running around and playing Pokemon Go for a minute, and discovering all the...
Not before we literally walked down a couple of blocks to go find and raid a Machamp in a local gym.
Right, and then we did a conveyor belt sushi, which was fantastic. It was absolutely worth the adventure back into the
I was only expecting to go through maybe 4 plates, but I ended up going through 6.
Yeah.
You're probably the least. You probably had the least amount of all of us.
on purpose. So overall, I've already kind of given my thoughts on it, but I feel like it is, its reputation is, its reputation is exactly how people describe it. It's the biggest anime con in the country, one of the biggest in the world, and it is, the spearhead of the industry, essentially leading, exclusive releases and guest appearances and things like that. It's a great con if you are a consumer or a cosplayer, if you're there to buy stuff and meet people, or if you're there to cosplay and get great photo shoots. If you're there to do both, it's very challenging, especially, and if I could say whether or not I recommend it,
It's hard to say because I recommend it if you know what you're getting into, and because it's punishing for people like us that have not been there before and know their way around. But it's the same thing with like Dragon Con. It's like any day I would advocate for somebody to go to Dragon Con, but it's going to be rough your first year going. It's going to be difficult to really get a grasp of where to go and how to manage your time.
And if you are a Dragon Con person, I'd definitely say you at least have some experience with how the lines are with this convention, because Lord help you with some of those lines. Apparently they finally started putting up tents, so you're not standing out in blazing sun, but you will have tents
At miserable time.
filled with like hours of wait.
Or if you're like us and as pale as can be, you're going to get sunburned.
Now, Dragon Con has not had lines as bad as this con did since like 2008. They've gotten their line situation figured out to the point where they don't deal with that. But I think it may have been because of what happened at the Phoenix Comic Con, where they're checking everyone's bags when they walk into the door, so that process slows down the entrance of people coming into the building tremendously. So I think that's what created those lines, and people didn't anticipate how much that would slow down that process. But they fixed it right away. Like, to their credit, they made some changes on the next day and fixed that problem to where it wasn't as bad.
Yeah, it did unfortunately take them all day, for one whole day pretty much, of being screwed over with that to get everyone through the line and everything. But yeah, from that point on, it was fantastic. There wasn't any issues with anything on it.
Right. So Taylor, what are your final thoughts?
Well, first of all, it was kind of really confusing when you first get there. Like, you have all these lines, and it's day -1. We stood in line, we got our badge, no problem.
Yeah, we didn't have much trouble at all on day -1.
The one thing that I really didn't understand is that when you buy the badge online, that doesn't include Friday. So you had to actually go through the line and buy that separately. But one thing is they didn't even offer that.
Yeah, they did, but we didn't think we needed it.
Yeah, I'd gotten lucky and did the Black Friday badge deal, so I got Friday for it.
Yes. Unless you absolutely do things that night, like you could have done the bread, pre-show tickets are not worth it.
Yeah. That
So
was
Jet all hung out outside.
yeah.
So lesson learned, buy it on Black Friday.
or just skip the day zero badge, because the amount of programming you get for that money and having to wait in line again was totally not worth it for us.
I got no problem. Remember, down south, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, we call the place where you buy things a dealer's room. Here, they call that an exhibit hall.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a dealer's room, look for the exhibit hall, because they will look at you like you're stupid if you ask for a dealer's room.
I don't know. I feel like that was just like us not identifying that, because I swear there are other cons that call it an exhibitor hall. I'm pretty sure.
Remember, these people are professionals.
Right.
They've experienced conventions before, so they know what it's about.
Yeah.
But speaking of the exhibition hall, it was actually way damn impressive.
It was very impressive. Yeah.
It was so huge. I mean, you couldn't go through. I mean, it's not like AWA or MomoCon where you can go through it in about an hour. You literally needed to take 2 to 3 hours out of your time to go through here, because a good 45 minutes of that you're dodging people left and right because you're going to get run over.
Well, I mean, I ended up only going through the dealer's room one time, except for one other time trying to get a promo figure that ended up not getting. But I ran through once, and I pretty much just looked at stuff. Wasn't even trying to really buy anything. And it took me, almost an hour and a half, just for the amount of people. It didn't help being all night cosplaying, so I was getting stopped at least a few times in the aisle and talking to people.
Hey,
So,
at least you weren't the guy.
an hour and a half.
At least you weren't the guy from the series. People were very vocal about the hatred towards the character I was portraying. Very hateful.
California heat does not like hot glue or any form of super glue, so E6000, whatever you got your prop for, like double up on that before you go to California. But that being said, their cosplay repair room was amazing, but getting in the said cosplay repair room was hard because it was also in the video game room. I wish they would have moved that in a different spot. But once you actually got in there, they had glue, all sorts of things you could need, so that was a plus, just moving somewhere else.
Speaking of the entertainment hall, that was fantastically well done. So it's their gamer hall, but it also has on the left side of it, it ends up being
Cosplay backdrops.
it has cosplay backdrops, and they had probably 8 or 9 different cosplay backdrops that include a Japanese setting, a school setting,
forest
bleachers,
setting,
forest, post-apocalyptic space. They even had a ball pit. You know,
even had a ball
as much
pit.
time as you needed in there. More than an hour if you wanted to.
#DashCon.
That's a graveyard.
Yeah, in the graveyard. So they basically had this place open like 10 to 10 every day, and you were there.
Actually,
it was even open.
Actually, it was 10 to 6.
Well, it was open day 0 even, where we got to do our first look at it, and it was a lot of fun. We got to do several different pictures, and this guy over here ended up making himself a photo shoot happen by talking to a couple of his Team Skull buddies. Yeah, it became probably one of the funniest parts of this convention.
Well, the funniest part about it is that you know how everyone's been Team Skull lately. I was just dressed up in my normal grunt costume. I'm like, hey, here we have a classroom. Let's just get a bunch of grunts and do like a grunts day off, something, or like a grunts meeting, like all hail Guzma. And I'm going through it, and we're like every grunt I see, I talk to about them. And about them normally, I'm thinking like, no, none of them are gonna show up. They probably got other things to do. Sure enough, they did. We had every desk packed, along with literally all of them. I didn't even have to tell them what to do. They went in there
under the desk,
and they did every trope imaginable in any sort of school anime.
The funniest thing about this is that when you compare it to the other photo shoots that we did, which no shade to anybody who is watching that organized the photo shoot this weekend, but like I said earlier in the video, I was very critical of how few people knew about photo shoots and were enthusiastic about going to photo shoots. Overall, the response we got was not super great on this. This guy, on the other hand, just randomly tells people, be here by noon, and he filled up every single desk, and each one of these people sits at a desk, picks a different pose than the other person without having to micromanage it, and every single one of those poses was like an anime classroom trope.
It was classic. But we were speaking about photo shoots. Like out of all of them, I think my favorite one was the Hero Academia with the Overwatch, because the Overwatch in second. But I will say this: unlike we've all experienced like cosplay elitists and everything. Everyone's kind of stuck up and everything. All the cosplayers here were very friendly.
Yeah, we had satisfied with that.
Even like some of them that had their own camera people who were working on like all these big photos and everything. They were so nice. Like you walk up and you wanted a picture of them, they were all smiling and everything, and none of them ever actually responded to you in a very negative way. If the only people who were negative would probably be the staff at the convention center itself, not associated with the con, but more of the area that it was going in. You were saying?
Yeah, but as far as what he's talking about with the Hero Academia photo shoot, I definitely, probably out of anything I did for the weekend, that's probably one of the most fun times I had, because of course it's new, and being All Might, you're pretty well involved in most everything. But I haven't had an anime photo shoot that big in a long time, and thanks to this guy right here, I got pretty well talked into doing a costume, and went to the Fate photo shoot, and man, it was a blast. Unfortunately, it was also one of the hottest damn things I had to deal with all day, because I'm in 3 layers of clothing, and there's nowhere to get shade. We're on the top of a building. Yeah. So that part wasn't as much fun. But that
was a fantastic photo shoot, though, when it was all said and done.
Very well done. It was very well organized, and I had no problems with any of the people there. And seeing the diversity, I guess. Yeah. Going away from even the photo shoots, the diversity of different ethnicities and everything at the photo shoot was a lot of fun, because you get just people from everywhere. We ended up a couple of the people we got some Facebook and Instagram information from. I met one in the Hero Academia shoot that was from Toronto, and I was like, well, that's impressive. I'll probably never see you again unless I come back here. Right. But it was really cool to see all the different people coming from everywhere. And the big photo shoot, of course, had probably one of the most amazing costumes I had seen. Oh, yeah. Like throughout the entire convention.
So the guy that was Vlad from Fate Extra.
He had actually made it out of metal. Yeah. And had worn it, made it all bloody. It was fantastic.
The Overwatch people were also pretty amazing. Like I know Diva is the most popular one, but I really loved, like, there was someone made the suits. They made the robotic suit. Not to mention there was a lot of Pharaohs. There's Pharaoh. There was Lucio. There was Roadhogs.
Not to mention the enormous Reinhardt.
Oh God, that was an absolutely
amazing. Which is a given. You got to see that one there.
But I will say this: out of the photo shoots, no offense to the people running that one, but I feel like the Tokusatsu one that I tried my very hardest to make it to was only about 30 minutes, and they quit after 15, leaving 15 empty minutes. I was still able to make it there with a bunch of people like still sitting around, so I was able to grab a few photos. But still, it wasn't really even worth the money that I put into getting the suit ready in time. I mean, I spent extra money to make sure that suit made it in time for that shoot, and then it just didn't even work out. I mean, I felt so disappointed.
Yeah, I feel like you have a right to be critical about that because that's pretty I mean, why would you book a photo shoot for only 30 minutes and then cut it up after 15 minutes? And then, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
It wasn't only that one that day. There was two of them, and because like they switched one of the photo shoot areas because of the buses, they actually put the new tokusatsu shoot in the building next to us. And some of the people couldn't even make it. So this one guy dressed up in a full suit didn't even make it to the photo shoot because he had no idea where it was. There was no updates, no nothing.
That's a shame.
But
not like. Once again, we're not trying to shame anyone with the photo shoots. It's just like coming from us, who like pretty much every one of us in our group have actually hosted photo shoots and panels at conventions. It's interesting to see how they're done this way, and we try not to be critical about it, but it's something that just kind of happens without us thinking about it, as we just see how issues happen, issues don't happen. And it was one of the things with the Hero Academia shoot was a lot of fun, but it got better the second day. It seemed like the day one.
Well, Doug, we had a Mount Lady cosplayer.
Yeah, but it seemed like it got a lot better by the second one. I don't know if the person in charge of it was just new to what they were doing, but I definitely helped them out, and that's something I'm always happy to do when it comes to photo shoots like that.
One other thing, and one of the most important things, if you go to this con, bring cash. Do not use your card.
Yeah.
We have a story behind that.
We have several stories behind the amount of cash.
I've commented on that a little bit earlier in the video about how all the places only took, like so many places around downtown LA only took cash.
Only took cash and couldn't separate checks.
Yeah, we're capable of separating checks.
Yeah, we got one more topic about photo shoots.
Alright, speaking of that photo shoots, because I had ran a photo shoot for Mortal Kombat myself, I had a ton of reference photos. I ran into a similar issue where my host was like, what do you think we should do? What we should do this, do that, like 30 minutes into it. Luckily, like I said, I had reference photos that we could already do. Also, for anyone who's like brand new to the convention area and doesn't know, it would be great if like they had like signs, let's say site 6, site 5, whatever.
Yeah, that's a
that
great
way.
point. That's a
Or
very
like,
good
and like at the site have like big numbers like placard or something that says you are in site 6 or something to that effect.
I completely agree.
I will have that was probably my one big negative about the fake photo shoot. It had nothing to do with the photo shoot. It was all the location. And my only reason I was able to get to that photo shoot was that I'd contacted him and had him come and find me, because the 3B location was impossible to find on the map, at least when I tried to find it. And the description was very lackluster as far as detail on where exactly it is.
But that was a whole thing about the entire convention in general.
Yeah.
None of their panels had any sort of detail to them.
Well, as far as that's a whole other thing altogether. But my thing about that was that none of the photo shoot locations at all were inside. They were all outside locations.
Probably because there was no room given the amount of people.
Exactly, which is different to what we expect at NWA, where at NWA, yes, you have a convention center that's occupied with people, and the con occupies all of the convention center's real estate, but you still have indoor photo shoot locations.
And I feel there were places that could have done that. There were definitely, like, everywhere ended up by a certain point of the day being so clustered with people that it would have probably been annoying to try to do a photo shoot. But I feel there were several locations within the facilities that at certain maybe non-peak times could have become photo shoot locations, which ended up happening. We saw it every night. We walked around about 10, 11 o'clock. There was parts of the West Hall that kind of became impromptu professional photography areas, and they look fantastic. And I'm like, okay, I can see why this in the morning would probably not be something, but it definitely seemed like I feel they kind of missed out on a few of the places that would make it look good. And it seemed like, I don't know if it's every year, because I got different reactions from different people that have been here before, because of course it's our first year, that the convention staff versus the convention center staff seemed to be a big issue, and they were butting heads a lot, because they taped off the steps that apparently for the last multiple years were where we were having photo shoots. So we would end up having 50, 60 people on a flat surface, which, if you know anything about photography, makes that insanely hard to get a good photo, especially if we're having to have people crouch down and then potentially cosplays that can't do that. But
my thing about that is I agree to an extent, but I feel like a lot of credit is due to the convention center staff and the con staff for this con, because they seem like they were very organized, they answered questions properly and everything, and especially compared to what we do with MomoCon, where MomoCon is still, after 3 years in the DWCC, still getting its bearings. This seemed like it was a lot better organized. I really got to give them a lot of credit for that, but I do agree that one particular detail about the photo shoot locations and that disparity between the two did cause us a lot of grief with the photo shoots.
yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, it definitely did feel like, it almost seemed like there were people there that really did not know about the photo shoot locations, and it was really odd to see so many people did not know about it.
So I kind of want to comment on what Taylor said about the surprising lack of eliticism from the cosplayers, that they were all very friendly. The thing I learned about that, and I'll give a lot of credit about that, about not judging a book by its cover, is that I did get a few kind of negative reactions from some cosplayers that I talked to. But what I learned about that is that this is a very stressful con, and a lot of them were under a lot of pressure. So initially I criticized some of the people I talked to for having kind of bad reactions to being like, hey, do you want to go to a photo shoot? Do you know what a photo shoot is? And they're just kind of like, I don't know. It's because with this con, with how busy it is, you have to plan things so far in advance. You can't just spontaneously show up to a photo shoot. So it wasn't that they didn't want to, it's that they really can't give a confidence. That's the exception, not the rule. That's the exception, not the rule.
Can't spontaneously show up in a photo shoot.
Yeah,
I proved that wrong.
Right. That was what was so surprising about that situation, is it completely contradicted everything we had learned up until that point. But basically, like I said, I understand that people were kind of stressed out. They couldn't plan for things like that. But again, knowing what we deal with at DragonCon, I don't feel like that's as much of the fault of the con as it is their social skills. Like, you should at least be able to have a conversation with somebody and be polite without having to be that awkward. Because I got some awkward conversations from some cosplayers.
Yeah.
But I would never label anybody that I talk to as an elitist or snobby or anything like that, just based off the reactions I got. I think it was just the environment they're in, the expectations that they
Plus,
went.
you're also probably dealing with the heat and everything. And then you got to think about it also after day one, and all those poor people who had to stay in line for 2 hours in the heat and all their costumes. Even no one would be in a good mood to finally enter in a convention at that point.
Right.
Pretty sure a lot of cosplayers even had cosplay malfunctions while in.
I'm sure they did.
the line.
But yeah, I'll definitely have to agree as far as like the reactions as far as the costuming and everything like that. I've had a great time here. I was almost to a point of not necessarily worried, but curious to see how it would be going, since I'm so used to the Southern Charm kind of cons. So you have the kind of almost kind of brought up raising as the kind of nice guy kind of a thing. So going completely over to a non-Southern style thing in California, so we have completely opposite side of the nation.
I know they played out your accents.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. So I ended up having a lot of fun talking to different people, and it was always interesting when it got to the point that we talked about where we came from. And several times we called it out that it was going to happen. That we
it
would
was
have
you and Joey here got called out for your Southern accents.
Yeah, we either got called out for them, or I made a comment because people would ask us where we came from, and we'd be like, well, on Tuesday we're driving back to Georgia, and they'd be like, knew it. Yeah, that's where the accent's from.
Hey, we cover the exhibitor dealer hall thing.
Yeah, we talked about
Yeah,
that.
okay. But yeah, it was interesting to see it going from that and hearing them make that comment, because we're so used to the Southern conventions that we never get anyone going, oh, you got a Southern accent.
Yeah.
It's everyone has a Southern accent. So
They never
really
pointed that out to me, probably because I don't have an accent.
They say you have a Canadian accent.
Yeah, you've got a Canadian accent from your dad, so you don't have that one as much. bunch, and we had several Toronto people there.
So it's probably just normal for them.
Yeah, so they're probably used to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting. I never got too bad of one, but I did have a few times people would come and talk to me and mention it. So it's kind of entertaining to see that aspect of things because you just don't think about it.
When I go into Storyboat, I change my accent a lot. So instead of saying thank you, I appreciate it, I'm like, thank you, I really appreciate that. You know, I change my
try to disguise it a little
we
bit.
all know about the convention, but why not actually tell them about all the delicious food that we ate?
Yeah, let's get that on screen there. So that was what was that at the
was
My
at the
Ramen
noodle
Bar?
shop, yeah.
That was at My Ramen Bar. What about the sushi? You took pictures of that?
Oh, I did. 1 second.
Yeah,
the rotating sushi bar was fantastic.
Yeah, I'll say I'm definitely happy to with all the food we got, but man,
That place in Chinatown was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen videos of places like this before. If you're ever in LA to get an opportunity to go to Little Tokyo, they had a lot of fantastic places. Some of it was kind of expensive, like especially buying, paying $7 for a slushie or whatever was pretty expensive. But I paid like $14 before tip for all that sushi. I could not be happier with how that went. So
That place in Chinatown was actually really good.
Oh, the pho place?
Yeah.
The pho place, whatever. Fantastic. Like $8 for a big, massive bowl.
I only got a
it was
regular
we ended up trying to go by Chinatown before the convention started, so we were just kind of on a little bit of a rush. So we were trying to run around find what looked good. We found it's like Pho Bay or something like that. And the one bad thing is there's like 6 pho restaurants, so we'll have to go find out exactly which one we went to. But it was known for its beef noodle soup, and $8 for a bowl of soup that has probably almost a gallon of food in it. Like it is really good.
That kept us going the whole day pretty much.
Oh yeah, I don't think we even grabbed anything else till like almost like 10 o'clock at night on the next day.
Yeah.
But we're getting snacks.
Yes, we are.
We're not getting snacks.
we'll get
walking away.
It's okay.
So saw us looking at it.
There's someone coming up. That's what.
Yeah. So I think that about concludes our final thoughts about Anime Expo.
No. What about this place? What about Anime Jungle?
Oh yeah. I got a lot of I edited a lot of pictures of that, so they should be able to
we
see
gotta
that.
talk about. So we found one little gym in Little Tokyo. That's a like antique store. Oh, snacks are back.
Burritos, cookies, peanuts, pretzels. Can I have some?
Which one? Take
What you grabbed?
the cartridge.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this place was one that we almost didn't go by. We just saw it the second day we actually showed up. I kind of wish we saw it the first day, so we would have had like hours to look at it. So we go into this little like Japanese antique store, and it's two stories. So the bottom story was pretty cool, had a bunch of little knickknacks and stuff. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. And then we see the stairs, and we're like, oh.
Yeah, we were
up here.
We were about to walk out of there until I saw. I think it was Tiffany going up into the second floor. And
Well, no, I was first because we were making fun of the crippled guy going up the stairs, leading the way up.
Yeah.
So we go up the stairs, and we're just surrounded by all these cassettes and like 8 tracks, and they're all in Japanese. And we just started looking around, and under the booths of these tables that they've got are laser discs, and we're like, laser discs? Well, that's going to be interesting. We pull a couple of the laser discs out. They're laser discs of old animes.
Yeah,
And
like classic anime.
Really good classic animes. And we then proceeded for the next like 2 hours to start looking through them, and we ended up finding G Gundam, Trigun,
Tenchi.
Yeah, but then you proceeded to put them away.
A ton of 0083.
Yeah, we got some 0083. I got 2 of those.
Yeah.
They had the full double Zeta for like, God, it was supposed to be for like $400, but they had them all on like this ridiculous discount, so it was for like $60.
It wasn't until I was actually heading towards the exit, and then I was like, wait a minute. I looked down, and it says all laser discs anime, 75% off.
Yeah, so
And the minute I said that, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go. They told me to go downstairs and see if it's true or not. And I'm like, okay. I go down there, and she tells me because on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday only, they were 85% off. I walked right up those stairs and said, hey guys, good news. Because Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they're all 85% off. These guys proceeded to literally just jump on the floor.
Yeah,
It was fantastic. You saw every one of us immediately just stop, turn back around, and ran back to those shelves.
because there was a bunch of other people in that. There was a bunch of other con people in the room with us at the time.
Yeah.
And there was a guy that was like trying to decide which Trigon ones he wanted, and he came up and said that. And he's like, "Well, I'm taking all of them." He's got all of them.
Because
Yeah.
I was like, about Trigon. He's like, yes. Oh, they're like $80 a pop. 85% off. And he just goes running back to where all those are, and we ended up buying several of them. I think every one of us bought like 2 of them.
I didn't want to get any. I wanted to.
I didn't.
Yeah.
But it
I
was a lot of
I was
fun.
saving my
and
money for the con.
I'm kind of sad because we tried to go by there again today in hopes that we could do a quick run by them again for a
They
bit.
were closed.
And they were closed because of July 4th. But I'll definitely say if we ever come back here again, that will absolutely be a thing that I'm planning for like half of a day because I want to go look and see what all odd ends you got there. Because with classic anime like that, you have no idea what you're going to find there.
Make sure you got cash for that place too.
Cash only.
Yeah.
Let's not forget. What about?
split tickets?
Yeah.
What if you guys go next time and that Gojulus is still there?
Oh God.
I bet you we can find it online cheaper.
Yeah, that's the one thing is they definitely had that the Gojulus, the ogre, for way higher than it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But it happens.
So, any final thoughts before we end?
Don't go to the 24-hour cafe.
Yes, don't go to the 24 hours.
Sorry, I was
Great
actually
call
eating
out.
crackers at the time. Yeah.
So we like. I don't want to say anything crap about people, but I'm going to say crap about this place because it was absolutely terrible as far as not necessarily the food. Food was fine. But
But their whole menu was written on a board, and it wasn't like a wide
which is
variety.
fine. It's something for like the locals would know.
Yeah.
But your issue with it, and we were hoping it would be a good 24-hour place to go, 2, 3 in the morning, hang out before we go to bed. Well, we go there, and horribly rude service. It was the most rude service I've had in years. The cop that was directing us in was perfectly fine. It was absolutely the waiter staff. They were rude. They didn't end up giving us stuff. They ended up giving us just awful remarks. Well, not really remarks, but they gave us looks. Just it was bad.
Yeah.
Like we went there and immediately we're like, yeah, we're never coming here again.
Not to mention.
while you're there.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean how I backhand the water and it went all over the table?
Yeah.
At least that water went down before our food got there.
And not to mention cash only. It's probably overpriced.
And they couldn't split.
And you can't get separated check.
I
So
paid-
all of us had to pay for it.
I paid the whole. Didn't I pay the whole thing in? I paid the whole thing in cash.
All right. I think that's all we got. So we'll see you guys.
And one
at the
other
end.
thing, if you're in here, the Uber drivers, a lot of them are really friendly people.
Yeah. You got to take Uber to get around in LA.
Yeah,
Like,
the
it's-
Uber was a lot of fun, especially since driving there would be awful. They have so many people there. Like, it was pretty much every time you would have a light change, you'd have people honking their horn. And I've never seen, even going through Atlanta, I don't have traffic nearly as bad
Also,
as out there.
whenever you do,
We got there and was giving out water to everyone.
also,
Oh, yeah.
whatever you do, don't walk to the Home Depot from the convention center.
Yeah, we learned that the hard way. I've
a story we got there.
already told that story. Yeah. All right. I think that's it. We'll see you guys when we land.
Later.